the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to talk about letting go of old ideas. This was the topic this morning in my meeting. And I wanted to start off with a little itty bitty story about what happened yesterday. My husband and I took our adorable pooches to the vet because they needed to get their checkup and they got all their parts inspected and everything's good. But when we were checking out, there was a young woman who was checking us out and I don't know, for some reason, she just held up her big water bottle and she said, I've been trying to drink more water. And I said, oh, you're doing a good job. Like the water bottle was half empty. Um, to her, I'm sure it was half full. That's the opposite way of thinking about that because she did not want to be drinking water. What she said to me was, um, I wish it was alcohol. And I thought for just a second, and I responded with, yeah, but you probably feel a whole lot better with it being water. And she did not agree with me. She didn't even respond to me. Um, and I looked at her, picking up on that pretty quickly, and I said, I guess that's debatable, huh? And she started laughing. She was like, I was gonna say, anyway, I was thinking about that's the way I used to think. And it's to me, there was a difference between the way that she was serving me and the way that I was seeing the other um, workers there serving other people. And she just seemed a little, I don't know. Um, she definitely wasn't happy to be there, but I don't blame her for not being happy to be there. But it was just like, just a little more, I don't even know what word it is to pinpoint on that. Um, I noticed it before we even had this conversation that she was off. Okay, how about that? We'll just say she was off. And then she made this comment about, I wish it was alcohol. And I thought, do people who are not alcoholics say stuff like that? I don't know. I don't know it, what is true about it. I just can tell you that that used to be my train of thought. That, and then it was like I always wanted to escape, that I was not able to be grateful for the moment that I was in, ever, no matter what it was. And today, I'm able to do that, even when the moment I'm in isn't great. And I'm grateful that I can do that. But it took yesterday for me to be where I am today. You know, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. That's what that means for me. But it wasn't just taking away the drink that made things get better for me. You take away the drink and they say the malady lives on. My thinking problem still exists when I take the drink away because there's something between my ears that's just not firing right. It's not firing in such a way that I'm on a like even keel all the time. I'm always working to lift myself up. It's kind of like a hot air balloon, and every once in a while you got to pull the lever thing to spray the fire. I don't know the technical terms, but to light the fire in order to make the hot air balloon rise up again. And that is what I have to do internally to keep um my mood afloat. Like, what I used to do was drink. That was me pulling the cord to light the fire in the hot air balloon, to raise my mood. It was alcohol. When I took away the alcohol, it was like I would drink the alcohol in order to pull the cord and raise my mood until pulling the cord didn't raise my mood. And I had to really hold on to the cord much longer. I had to drink more in order to get my mood to rise. And eventually, it didn't matter how much I pulled the cord, it was not gonna allow my mood to rise. Like, there was a hole in the hot air balloon. Um, so I had to take the drink away. I had to find a new way to have my mood be a lot more, to be honest, of even keeled or afloat. And taking away the drink, taking away the cord, was it made my balloon sink immediately for sure. But my balloon was already on the ground, and it took the steps in order to start working on my thinking problem. Um, in our reading this morning, Letting Go of Old Ideas, it said my thinking limits my freedom. And that's exactly what happens. And it still happens today. My thinking limits my freedom. Yesterday, I was talking to my husband, and we were talking about how, he wants to get to the point of retirement. I mean, don't we all? Well, I am medically retired now, and we were talking about how much I really enjoyed working and all of this stuff. And he's like, we're always debating about when things are ironic, because most things that people say are ironic are actually just a coincidence or something like that. And he was like, now that is ironic that I don't want to work and you're the one who's medically retired. I mean, we're joking around about it, of course. And it's like, what I was thinking was, I need a little more gratitude. I need to keep working on that gratitude, that so I can see the gifts that I have, even though I have this disorder, this disability. I went to a vestibular support group yesterday, and man, was it good. It was so good. Um, I'm really proud of myself, first of all, for showing up. And I heard a lot of what I needed to hear. And that's what happens when I show up, when I expose myself to these opportunities to connect with people that are just like me. Um, Everybody in that group yesterday, not everybody, but several of them, more than what I've come across in other support groups, had the same symptoms as me, like not being able to look at digital devices, not being able to tolerate things that move. People who had to medically retire. One woman said that she's been battling this disorder for 20 years, and they only diagnosed her at the end of this past year. And I thought, you're my idol. That's what I said. I was like, you're an inspiration to be able to keep fighting for yourself when you don't even know what's wrong with you. I mean, that is so difficult. I can't stress how much that's difficult. And And that's what another woman in the meeting was talking about. Her journey has just begun, and she's like, so she did not have a stroke. None of them had a stroke. Um, she, I think, said that she lost spinal fluid, or I don't think it was a brain bleed, but there was an event that happened, a neurological event. And she hasn't been right since then. And she's at that point where I was, where she was trying to go back to work and she just couldn't do it. Um, and so I shared, like, it's not until we accept what's going on that we can start healing. And I said, I get it. Like, it's hard to accept what's going on when they can't tell you what's going on. That is such a big struggle with vestibular disorders, is that doctors don't understand it. Um, First of all, they toss you around through specialists, from all kinds of different neurology specialists to ENTs and a neuro-otologist. They just plain old don't have the answers now. And there is that VNG vestibular test that I just took a couple months ago that finally diagnosed me with vestibular neuritis. And there was a gentleman that also has vestibular neuritis. And both him and I were talking about the permanence of the disability, that it's not something that's going to get better. What he kept saying, I kept hearing him saying it gets better. He wasn't talking about the vestibular neuritis that gets better. It's the being able to cope with it gets better. Um, but that's not a guarantee. It takes work. We have to show up to things like support groups in order to allow it to get better. Um, and that's what quitting drinking felt like too. Took the drink away, it wasn't just going to get better. Things just don't get better unless I work at it. I have to show up to my sobriety meetings, just like I have to show up to things like stroke survivor and vestibular support groups, because I have to work on what's going on between my ears. Um, Much of my thinking is self-destructive, even if it's just the slightest. For me, it starts off that way. It's like that balloon just starts to ever so slightly start losing altitude, and I don't even notice it until I do, until I look down and I see the earth is right underneath me, like it's super close. So, it takes work to do that. And I can't adjust my old way of thinking without looking at it. And that's what I wasn't doing when I was drinking. I was not looking at what was going on between my ears. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to go to the vestibular support group yesterday, because I wanted to address what's going on between my ears and how it relates to other people suffering from the same disability. Um, I recognize that I have pulled away from that. It's like, not because I thought I was better necessarily. Maybe I did. Maybe I pulled away because I thought, oh, I'm doing good. Isn't that when we pull away? When we've take anxiety medication or depression medication and we feel like we're better, so we attempt to stop taking it. And that's when that balloon just collapses against the earth, falls because I'm not taking care of myself. I have to be consistent and maintain my altitude. And it takes work every day, and that's why I record this every day. At least I try to every day. I think I miss one or two a month, if any. But those are typically times when I just need to take a break, or else I have too much going on that I just couldn't do it. Um, Alcohol was a tranquilizer to me. Um, I thought that alcohol was was benefiting my life. It was doing things for me. It was keeping my thinking straight, keeping that hot air balloon afloat. And I felt like, society ties alcohol to success and happiness and celebrating. So how can drinking alcohol shift from having that kind of impact and working for me to what feels like suddenly, and it's certainly not suddenly in retrospect, but starting to see what it's doing to me. Um, some people in the meeting this morning were talking about how it's coming out in the news how there's no amount of alcohol that's good for you. You know how they're like, "Oh, you should have one glass of red wine every evening," which I loved that they would say that because I was like, "Oh, one glass of red wine, then 10 glasses of Chardonnay must be great for me, you know?" Um, I thought that alcohol was why I thought when I was drinking, I was like one step away from success. I was always one step away from success until I was one step away from my grave. That's what it felt like in my life, that I was up, up, up until I was down. I didn't see myself sinking. I didn't see the hot air balloon sinking. Um, and before I actually was able to admit that my life was unmanageable, that I needed help, that I couldn't do it on my own, I thought that willpower was the cure. I thought, and so did my family, and my friends, like, just stop. I had a friend that I used to sit next to at work, several jobs ago, and he would do a take a month. I don't know if he did it every year, but I just remember one year in particular. He was not going to drink for 30 days. He wanted to make sure he wasn't an alcoholic. And I was like, I thought that was so bizarre. Why you would do that? I'm like, why would you do that? Just drink. I'm sure you're not an alcoholic. Well, lo and behold, I was the alcoholic, and that's why I thought that that was bizarre and wouldn't do it. Um, I I really wasn't willing to take away that self-medication. I needed it. I needed it back then as much as I needed it 8 years ago. And that was, boy, that was, let's see, I'm 50 now. That was probably like 25 years ago. That's crazy. all that time, I had that same obsession. I had that same feeling that alcohol was a requirement in my life. Alcohol, I was not going to be able to survive without it. Um, Back then, I just didn't want to. I didn't see the need to stop for 30 days and see if I could make sure I wasn't an alcoholic. Because what if I was, right? Does that mean that I would have to stop forever? I wasn't willing to do that. And I was using alcohol to manage my anxiety. So it wasn't just the depression that I was trying to keep off the ground, but it was that anxiety. I didn't want my hot air balloon to blow away. And that alcohol was, now isn't this interesting? Alcohol was both the cord that you pull to keep the balloon afloat, but it was also the sandbag that kept it stable. And the sandbag would actually pull it towards the ground if I didn't have the cord. I was working against myself. I was fighting against myself. I was managing my anxiety um, until I had to drink more in order to manage my anxiety. I had to add another sandbag. It's just like there was this crazy battle going on inside of me that was exhausting. It was truly exhausting. And so, how am I going to be present when I have so much happening between my ears? How can I even just be present for the moment? And and that's what I was thinking about when I talked to this young woman yesterday. I was thinking about wishing some for so long I wished that my glass was full. I wished that I had this or I had that. I was never able to be grateful because I was not able to see what was going on around me. In my book that I'm writing, in my memoir, I talk about it being like this film that covered everything around me, and I just couldn't reach it. Um, I couldn't be in the moment. It was a hazy film that just covered my life. And once I was able to take the alcohol away, then I was able to start addressing what was going on between my ears. And that's when I was able to start letting go of those old ideas. I still have them there because alcohol, because anxiety and depression is going to be with me for the rest of my life. And just the way that I've accepted that, that's the way I need to accept my vestibular disorder. That's how I need to accept my stroke. And I feel like I made a little progress yesterday in that support group because when I was able to talk to this other woman and share my experience and say, hey, like I was where you were and I tried to go back to work and it eventually I didn't tell her, but I was like, it broke me. I told her I kept trying until I was in too much pain that I couldn't function. And my mind just went blank. It's happening a lot the past week. I shared with her that it wasn't until I was able to accept that I was able to make progress. And I think yesterday, saying it out loud again to try to help another person, and then having another guy say the same thing, um, it it really helped. So I want to keep going to these meetings and keep dipping myself into these fellowships, not just my sobriety fellowship, but the other ones, and make sure that I'm exposing myself to other people that have the same disability that I have, because it helps with my acceptance for sure to see other people are doing it. How are they doing it? How can I take that stuff and apply it to my life so I can benefit from that train of thinking as well? So, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for showing up for yourself, and I will talk to you tomorrow.